I hope it's not too loud to hear. I'm in town at a place. I'm liking these little impromptu vids. I don't know if it's going over so well with you guys, but you know, it's for me. This is like a week of mourning for Charlie, and you know, I'm so galvanized and inspired by his example. I just keep watching all these videos, and you know, I keep sending them to like my brother and my dad. I think they're getting sick of them, but I just keep finding things that are just so wonderful and truthful, and just go against everything that my former friends have been saying against Charlie. You know, part of me wants to start sending them videos, but you know, I've kind of blocked. And I just think to myself, they don't want to know, and it distresses me that they keep coming up with excuses and so on. But it's their whole argument is, well, what about this? What about this? So they won't like acknowledge this one piece of evidence I give them. They won't say, oh, okay, maybe I was wrong. You don't see any softening of their view. They just keep immediately saying, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? They move on to the next thing. You just realize that they've got a heart committed to hating him. But I actually wanted to make this video not about our ostensible enemies with which we have no common ground. I think I've talked at length about that, and there's not much more to say about it. What I want to say a quick word about is our allies that don't support us. And, oh God, sorry, there's been some really loud trucks going by just now. But what I want to say is that there's a frustration that can come into the heart of every person. I'm sure Charlie felt it, but I think he was disciplined and patient and prudent enough to see past it, which is where well-meaning Christians, peaceful-minded, pacifistic Christians, most particularly women, more nurturing types, they end up being very critical of anybody that stands up for the faith. And you say to them, well, why, you think to yourself, well, why don't you understand this? And mostly I think it's because some of us, and look, I didn't do anything on the same level as Charlie, but back in 2011, I did take a stand. I was like a budding Charlie Kirk, but I never came anywhere near his platform. But that was because I got scared away. I wrote some letters to the editor here in Bermuda about gay marriage, and trying to civilly discuss the view, like the whole issue of gay rights in Bermuda, changes to legislation. I tried to show the history of the movement. I tried to present each side fairly, and I can honestly say, hand on my heart, that I was back then, I was a lawyer back then. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing anything. I was like really, really following the example of Christ as best I could. I was on fire for the Lord. I had just done a master's in Christian apologetics. I was clean cut. I was basically, Charlie Kirk light. And but I just got smashed for it. I didn't quite get fired because I was secure in my job, but I got a huge amount of hate for it. I got death threats. My parents got death threats. And it was made clear to me that once I left my job that I would never work in Bermuda again. I went to an employment agency at one point after I left law to see if they would take me on as a client. There was like some internal memo saying that no, he's branded as a homophobe, even though I was told expressly by a girl who works in HR at one of these companies who I went to school with. She said, it's not homophobic. They were actually very nice, balanced things, but people complain about you, and companies don't want the stain of any kind of controversy surrounding them on this controversial issue. We're at a watershed moment in gay rights, and so I was unpersoned, I was canceled, I was dehumanized. So I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to actually come up against people. Like sometimes you meet people who just have differing opinions, but if you actually are trained in logic and in argumentation, you can discover the depth of bad faith that's going on. You can actually see that there is a spiritual world, that there is a light and a dark and a demonic and an angelic. Now, that's not to say that I am that I am an angel and my opponents are demons. But there is a spirit of Antichrist that can inhabit a person, and I've seen it with the guy that I was arguing with yesterday that I was telling you. He is completely imbued with this former transgender guy. There is an utter Antichrist spirit in him, and I mean, I know a person who doesn't believe in this will just say, no, he's just being obstinate and uppity and you're getting frustrated. I go, no, there's something, this utter lack of humility, this utter lack of care, and crying victimhood all the time. Like, it's just, you might just want to say it's pathological, but I'm going to say it's of a demonic origin. And the thing is, and you hear this a lot from veterans who are in war zones where they encounter like true evil with people that practice cannibalism and torture and like dealing with the cartels and some elements in Afghanistan and so on. Even though Afghanistan, by many accounts, is a wonderful place to visit with great people, but when you get in a war zone and you experience how depraved human beings can get, these people often come back recognizing that reality. And for some of these sort of sheltered, well-to-do, often female, but male as well, but often female Christians, they end up firing at my back, not because they hate me, but because they just haven't experienced evil. And it's very hard for them to accept that people can be that depraved. And so they think that the more logical explanation is that the fault or the problem lies somewhere with me, that I'm being arrogant or too zealous or something like that, which are possibilities. They are possibilities. But it's a sort of a default factory setting for them to just assume that and not be willing to countenance anything else. And sometimes I realize that the reason why they won't countenance anything else is just because they don't understand or even really believe in the Christian worldview that says there are powers and principalities, there is darkness and light. I am